Hello and good evening, Chicago. Welcome back to another episode of Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio. It is Thanksgiving week, the week where everybody starts making plans for either hosting family or going to see family. We officially hit the holiday season portion of the calendar. We know that Christmas and Hanukkah and all the other December, January holidays are all right around the corner. The year itself is coming to a close, and that also means it's usually the time of year when injuries start cropping up and rearing their ugly heads, and that has happened yet again for the Bears. We will be discussing that a little bit later on into the show. Also on tap for tonight, we've got the Bulls on hand. Their season has just barely started. At the same time, it seems like there's already trouble brewing on the West Side. We will be discussing that. And then finally, the Blackhawks welcomed back one of their legends over the weekend. We will discuss Big Hoss and his welcome back, and maybe we'll get into some World Cup action as well. All this plus more right here on Chi-Town Weekly. Buckle it on up, everybody. Let's go. And hello and good evening, everyone. Welcome on in to Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Episode number 112 of Chi-Town Weekly as we roll right along. Gonna be a tough one tonight. Going to definitely be a tough one tonight, as we got but a little over an hour ago, we got an injury update on Justin Fields. So we'll be starting the show off, of course, with the Bears and that update to get everybody started. Before we get started, though, of course, we do want to acknowledge our sponsors and our other reads that we have tonight. So we will start off there. Of course, we here at IE Sports Radio, we've been around for the last 8.5 years now, been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans. And with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you a shout-out on all of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. And want to acknowledge our Patreon supporters at this point: Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you for your continued support throughout these last few months that we've been doing the Patreon support. Ways that you can interact. Of course, IE Sports Radio is available for you on all the major social platforms: Facebook, Twitter, for as long as Twitter still exists, Instagram, and TikTok. Just search IE Sports Radio, or as you saw there, go to our website, iesportsradio.com. This show is available for you on Twitter at IESRC. I am at Adam_Karnick. If you are listening live tonight here on Monday night on Spreaker, hop on into the chat room. We find Taryn Rodriguez already there. Hop on in. We can interact and have some fun that way. Or if you're listening later on as a podcast, whether it's on Spreaker or iHeartRadio or Spotify, any of the other platforms that we have, or if you just want to sit back and listen, thank you for being here. That's the important thing. I'm very glad for your support. Of course, the big news of the day. It was broken by Ian Rappaport just a little over an hour ago. It was about an hour and 20 minutes ago. Rappaport tweeted that Justin Fields has a dislocated left shoulder. Matt Eberflus, in his press conference earlier today, listed Fields as day-to-day. But it is very difficult at this point to see that. It's very difficult to think that Justin Fields would play this week in New York against the Jets. So in case you had not yet heard the news, Justin Fields down with a dislocated left shoulder, non-throwing shoulder. It was injured on the final drive of the game yesterday against the Falcons. So made it, despite all the hamstring problems he was having throughout the day, that's not the injury here. The injury here is he took a late shot on the first down carry on the final drive of the game, and that's where he dislocated his shoulder. No official designation as of yet. Eberflus doesn't have to give a designation. The team doesn't have to designate anything until Wednesday. In fact, it would be after Eberflus would meet with the media. So we will find out next, most likely on Wednesday, around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, when they put out the official injury report. We'll see if he practices, in what capacity he practices, how things will go. But it would seem like for this game at least that Trevor Siemian will probably be getting the start at quarterback. This stinks. It's just it stinks. There's no other way to say it. I know some Bears fans have been clamoring's too strong a word. Some Bears fans have been suggesting that the Bears should look at backing off Fields a little bit. I've seen some suggestions already that they should just shut him down for the season, and that was before the dislocated shoulder. For several reasons, I'm against that. One, just from the rest of this season standpoint, Justin Fields is the reason to be tuning into Bears games right now. There's nobody else on that roster that you're dying to see every Sunday. You know, there's nobody else there that you're dying to see. But on another standpoint too, Fields is not a finished product. You know, if this were, for sake of argument, if this were Lamar Jackson right now and Baltimore was 3-8 and it looked like the season was over, I'd understand shutting Jackson down to protect him for future seasons. But Fields is not, if this was the pinnacle of what Justin Fields was going to be, then I'd understand shutting him down. But he's not finished yet. There's still room for him to grow in the passing game. And this is where it's going to get interesting here for the rest of the season. It's going to be a chicken and an egg thing. And it's going to be where we're going to kind of discuss a lot of Bears things in this opening segment tonight as we talk Bears here tonight. But you need to do a little bit more to work on Fields' passing game, and that's now going to be extremely difficult with him suffering this injury. Again, nothing is official yet, but it's sounding like Trevor Siemian, the backup quarterback, is probably going to start at least this game against the Jets. And possibly the following week against the Packers. That's really going to be miserable if Fields misses that Packers game. Because that Packers game, it kind of was circled on the calendar like, oh my goodness, this could be the ceremonial passing of the torch. This could be a passing of the torch moment where we hand the baton from Aaron Rodgers being the king of the North over to Justin Fields being the king of the North. If Fields would go out and outplay and outduel Aaron Rodgers. And we might get robbed of that because of Fields having a dislocated shoulder. It's just, this is several years in a row now where we've gotten to Thanksgiving and we've had an injury at quarterback. Fields got hurt right before this time last year. They were scheduled to play in Detroit, and he wound up missing that game. And in fact, if I remember it correctly, and I didn't look it up before the show, but if I remember correctly, I know Andy Dalton started the Thanksgiving game, and then I believe Fields didn't start another game after that they effectively shut him down for the season. You had, I know there was another injury before that, but I'm going to go back to 2018. Everything was looking great, and then Trubisky missed the Thanksgiving game against the Lions with a surprise injury. Nobody knew he had gotten hurt until all of a sudden we got kind of the pseudo injury report on Monday when they had their walkthrough, and it was, oh yeah, he wouldn't have practiced. Nobody practiced, but had we practiced, Trubisky wouldn't have practiced, and everybody was, what? But yeah, there's something about this time of year where all of a sudden we get injuries to Bears quarterbacks, and it's happened yet again. If Trubisky were more polished in the passing game, and this is where you get into a little bit of a chicken and an egg thing. I was thinking about this earlier today and listening to stuff as well throughout the day. It's amazing to see Fields put up these amazing rushing numbers. I mean, he is right now he's number 5 in the NFL in rushing yards. Not rushing yards for a quarterback, just rushing yards. There are only 4 players in the league right now that have rushed for more yards than Justin Fields this season. It's crazy. Yesterday against the Falcons, he threw for a touchdown and he ran for a touchdown. That was the 5th consecutive game where Fields has done that. No other quarterback's done that 5 straight games. He's becoming appointment television. You've got to tune in to see him. You've got to tune in. He's the only reason right now to be watching the Bears. But you wonder, gosh, it'd be nice if he could have some more passing yards to go along with these rushing yards. And some of it is there's just only so many yards you can get in a game that if you're piling them up running, that is to some extent coming at the expense of throwing for those yards. And it's not like he's not being effective. I just brought up, he's scored at least 10 touchdowns over the last 5 games. He's had more than that. But there is a part of it that is, man, I'd like to see more yards. I'd like to at least see him throw for 200 yards in a game. He's done that one time this season. You think of great quarterback play, and inevitably what you think of the running plays, they're the highlights. They're the sprinkle on top. You don't think of it necessarily as a major part of what he's contributing. So there is part of watching it that makes you go, man, I want his passing yards to be higher. But there's a reason why they're not. It's twofold. And yesterday's game against the Falcons was a perfect example. The Falcons defensively said, you know what? Justin, you're going to have to beat us through the air. Yeah, Mike Pat. I had no idea Trevor Siemian was still in the league. Yeah, he's the Bears' backup quarterback, and he's going to be starting that's not official. It's not official. It appears like he's going to be starting on Sunday. We'll find out more on Wednesday when the injury reports come out, and some of the beat writers will be. I don't know if any of the beat guys will actually be able to view practice on Wednesday. I'll have to check with that. But we'll find out more on Wednesday. That's the short answer. But it would seem like all signs right now are pointing towards Trevor. Oh, God, no, do not call Cam Newton. No, do not call Cam Newton. No, I'm just fine. I don't want to watch Trevor Siemian. I don't want to watch Cam Newton either. I've seen enough of that. Thank you. But as for why Fields isn't getting more passing yards, it's a little bit of chicken and egg right now. On the one hand, as the Falcons showed yesterday, or reiterated, I should say, yesterday, it doesn't take much to beat this offensive line. You can send a 4-man rush. Heck, you can send a 3-man rush at this offensive line, and it's going to get home a startling amount of the time. Fields was sacked 4 times yesterday and pressured 10 others. The Atlanta Falcons as a team had 13 sacks going into yesterday's game. They just increased that by 25% in one game. They came in averaging just over 1 sack per game. They got 4 yesterday. Darn near quadrupled their regular output. This offensive line is horrible. They cannot pass block. Michael Schofield, in particular, was atrocious yesterday. Tevin Jenkins was active. Apparently, he was active but not really available. According to what Eberflus said, Jenkins had said, I'm good to go, but only in an emergency. That qualified yesterday. Michael Schofield literally couldn't block anything. That qualified as an emergency. Get Schofield out of there. Anybody else at this point. Jenkins preferably, but if Jenkins still isn't ready to go, you've got a 7th-round rookie, Jair Carter. Throw him in. Let's see what we can do. You picked up Alex Leatherwood from the Raiders for some reason. Do something. Get him out there. Try him. If he's horrible, fine. You learned that he's horrible. You know Michael Schofield is bad, and Schofield is a rental player anyway. The time for playing rental players is over. Thank you, Michael Schofield. Here's your final paycheck. Have a good day. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Thank you. Goodbye. So this offensive line can't pass block. That's part of why we're not seeing the passing yardage. Okay, fine. Well, then call for some faster pass plays. The wide receivers can't get open early. They don't do a good job of separating at the line of scrimmage. You've got some flatline speed in Darnell Mooney and in Velus Jones, who he saw a few more reps yesterday. Chase Claypool is apparently still learning the offense, I guess. They don't want to use him. That trade is looking very bad now. In 3 games, he has 5 catches. I don't know about you, but I'd consider using the guy you just spent a a pick that's almost certainly going to finish in the top 40, somewhere between 32 and 40 to acquire this kid. I'd say let's figure out what we have in him. But the wide receivers aren't able to get early separation to make it easier to throw some of those quick hitters. And as we saw yesterday, even just trying to set up screens doesn't work because the offensive line cannot block anything. It's so hard. So that's part of why we're not seeing more passing attempts and ultimately more passing yards for Fields, because you have to get him out on the edge. You have to roll him out. You have to do these running plays just to prevent him from getting flattened by 300-pound defensive linemen. If he's going to get hit anyway, you'd rather Fields get hit by corners or even linebackers rather than the giant hogs up front. But very rough news to start the night tonight. Justin Fields dislocated non-throwing shoulder. It's possible we could see him potentially try to play through it and try to do something against the Jets. We'll see. This Jets game now, by the way, the Jets, their head coach has intimated that Zach Wilson might not be starting. If we wind up with, a few weeks ago, this looked like it was going to be the battle of potentially 2 up-and-coming second-year pros at quarterback in Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. We might now instead get treated to Trevor Siemian versus Joe Flacco. I don't blame you for not tuning in Sunday if that's the case. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, we are going to talk about another team that is suddenly finding itself in a bit of a pickle. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set! Hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
Some say that Indiana is just a flyover state. Flatlands and cornfields, barns and country roads. What if I told you Indiana is the crossroads of America? What if I told you in all other states, basketball is just basketball? In Indiana, basketball is life. Crowded high school basketball gyms on a Friday night, and every barn with a basketball rim and a frayed, worn-out net. If you're interested in the heartbeat of America, and if you're interested in sports, if you have Hoosier running through your veins, the Crossroads Pod with Aaron X is made for you. Powered by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Each and every week, the Crossroad Pod covers all of Indiana sports. The pride of the horseshoe of the Indianapolis Colts. The blue-collar gold swagger of the Indiana Pacers. The relentless pursuit of a sixth banner for the Indiana Hoosiers. The swing of the hammer of the Purdue Boilermakers. The swoop of the Cardinals of Ball State. The summoning of the echoes of the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. The growl of the Bulldogs of Butler. The intensity of an Indiana fever. The chop of the Indianapolis Indians. At the Crossroads Pod, if it is Indiana, we've got you covered. More than cornfields. More than country back roads. The Crossroads of America. Join me, Aaron X, every week. It's nothing but net.
It's IE Sports Radio. It is your direct feed for all that is sports. It is Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris every Tuesday night right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris is the most comprehensive view on Philadelphia sports exclusively right here on IE Sports Radio. You know what it is, your direct feed for all that is sports. Tuesday night, IE Sports Radio, Philly Sports Talk with Cash and Chris.
What is going on, everybody? My name is Harrison Glazer, and we're coming at you from the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. I cover the Jets, the Islanders, the Nets, and the Yankees.
This is Pierre Moss, and I cover the Mets, Knicks, Rangers, and the Giants.
Our show is live every Wednesday through Spreaker and a bunch of other ways to get our content. Again, we're the Show That Never Sleeps podcast. We talk about all those New York sports. It's a lot of fun. We get into all of it. Please tune in. Again, that's Wednesdays at 6 p.m.
And we look forward to having you guys right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hello, ladies and sinners. Hello, sports fans around the world. Hello, IE Sports family. This is Cale Henderson, the host of IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio. If you folks are interested in sports in the Vegas area, if you're wanting to have a blast for 1 hour, every Tuesday night from 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, this is a show built for the Vegas sports fans, where we feature the Las Vegas Raiders, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, the Las Vegas Aces, and the University of Las Vegas, Nevada Rebels. Hopefully, fingers crossed, MLB team coming soon. Either way, if you folks are looking to have a blast for 1 hour each and every week, tune in Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you folks are interested in Vegas sports news, go to our Twitter, at SinCities_IESR, and you can speak with me, the host, Cale Henderson, at Cale_Henderson on Twitter. At any time, be happy to reply. Always want to reach out to our fans. Again, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody. Here, Adam Kernick along with you. And by the way, I wanted to mention after that first segment there, as the Bears get ready to take on the Jets, that if you want the Jets' perspective on things, be sure to tune in this Wednesday night to the show that never sleeps. Harrison is, to put it very mildly, a die-hard Jets fan. He will have a lot of thoughts on not only the game, but the possibility that Zach Wilson might not be playing in so that Joe Flacco can get playing time. I don't know about you, but Joe Flacco versus Trevor Siemian just sounds like a terrible match. It sounds like a great reason to go do anything else that day. But be sure to tune in on Wednesday night to get the New York side of things for the Bears-Jets preview for this week. All right, I teased it before the break that the Bears aren't the only team in town that is suddenly finding itself in a little bit of crisis mode after the weekend. The Bulls are playing tonight. They're playing the Celtics. Celtics coming in on a hot streak, looking to win their 10th consecutive game. First quarter right now, the Bulls are actually up 22-17 with just under a couple minutes left to go in the first. But the Bulls, this has not been the start of the season that we hoped for in Chicago. It's early. I get it. We're only 16 games in. But the Bulls are currently 6-10 overall. They've dropped 4 straight, and things are not looking good. You've got guys off to a rough start. Nikola Vucevic, of course, Lonzo Ball is still MIA. At this point, expected because of the second surgery he had right before the season started to his knee. Vucevic is not panning out at all. DeMar DeRozan has come back down to earth after he was just so amazing last year. And Zach LaVine, fresh off of his max deal that he signed this past offseason to return to the Bulls, is not playing well. And in fact, got benched in their most recent loss to the Orlando Magic of all teams. Yuck. The Bulls had no business losing to the Magic. And not only did they lose to the Magic were down 5 players in that game over the weekend, including their first-round draft pick, who's leading all rookies in scoring this year. And the Bulls still lost 108-107 to that sorry excuse of a team down there in Orlando. And it's got some things heated a little bit. LaVine, after the game, now against Orlando, LaVine was awful. He was 1 of 14 from the field. He had a terrible game. And so head coach Billy Donovan sat him for the final 3 minutes and change, almost 4 minutes of the game Friday night. And LaVine did not appreciate it. Here was Zach after the game, quote, "I got to do a better job at the beginning of the game to make my shots, but you play a guy like me down the stretch. That's what I do. Do I like the decision? No. Do I have to live with it? Yeah. Be ready to put my shoes on and play the next game." Now, he's 1 of 14 from the field. He finished with 4 points on the game. Now, he also then, to his credit, he did then come back yesterday and say that he and Coach Donovan, they're all good, that they've talked, They had practice on Saturday and they cleared the air. Here was Levine on Sunday. Quote, I just told him I feel like I've earned the right to go out there and try to play through a bad game. His decision was to try to do the best thing for the team, which I respect. If we won, obviously I would have been ecstatic. We lost. I wasn't. I had a terrible game. But it's one game, man. I don't want to get this blown out of proportion to the point we're talking about a loss. What? We've had multiple losses this year. We got a lot of games left this year. We're all good. I think he understands where I'm coming from, and I understand his decision as a coach that he has to make are tough, even if your players don't agree with it. And then this is Donovan after all this happened. Donovan now, quote, I totally get his competitiveness and his wanting to win and be out there. He should. I think all great players want to be able to do that. I felt in that moment in time it was best for the team, and I think he knows that I'll always try to put the team first and do what's best for the team. I also respect him from the standpoint, his opinion, he thought he needed to be out there. That was best for the team. We're 16 games into the season. You know, we're barely to Thanksgiving. But already this is feeling like this is about to get really ugly really quickly. You know, as we're sitting here, end of the first, as they're beating the Celtics right now, 28-23 over at United Center. But you have a feeling that this could get really bad if they don't start turning around and winning some of these games. To the point where Sam Quinn of CBS Sports even put out an article earlier today. Here's just the headline. Why the Bulls are quickly emerging as the NBA's primary rebuild candidate this season. We're talking about tearing this thing down already? You know, this time a year ago, the Bulls were the darlings of the association. Everything was roses. Sorry, I know that's a painful turn of phrase. Let me try that again. Everything was looking up. Everything was looking great for this organization. Now, they were the 1 seed in the East for so much of last season. And then we've just seen it collapse with Lonzo getting hurt and nobody really able to consistently step into those shoes. You know, it's a great article. It's a great article by Sam Quinn. I would advise checking it out. I'll tweet it out after the show at IESRC again on Twitter. I'll share it after the show. He talks about in the article that there's a couple ways they could go. They could try to do full teardown rebuild, which is what part of what the Bulls tried to do. The argument that he's making here with us, part of what the Bulls tried to do was zig when everybody else was zagging. That what most teams in the NBA do is they try to get 2 or 3 superstars and then whatever they can get around those stars to be complementary pieces. And it costs a lot, not only in cash to pay those players, but usually you're having to trade for them, and so you're having to spend lots of draft capital to go get those players. So it's costing you twofold. The Bulls, on the other hand, what the Bulls tried to do is say, okay, well, if everybody's going after the superstars and they're getting so difficult to get, well, there's all these second-tier guys that are just kind of lost in the shuffle. Let's go get those guys and see if we can't make a run with those. And the argument that Quinn then makes, and it makes sense because we've seen it play out, is that works great until something goes wrong, that your margin for error is just so much smaller when you don't have the ultra elite superstar players to make up for the fact that you've got deficiencies elsewhere. You know, the Bulls they're struggling to defend. They're struggling to shoot from three. And in this day and age in the NBA, obviously, okay, defense is somewhat optional in the NBA. Just the prevalence of the three-point shot, to not be able to consistently shoot the three and be so reliant upon the mid-range game, it's a hard way to win consistently in the NBA. And so the Bulls not having that, you know, there's other things that they're missing too. But I mean, you're talking at this point that the Bulls might be better off trying to tear this thing apart a little bit. Vucevic and DeRozan are both on expiring deals. And the Bulls don't have a lot of draft capital coming up. You know, they owe Orlando a pick for Vucevic. And there's another pick that they owe San Antonio a pick for DeRozan. Both are first round picks. Quinn brings up an interesting point too, that the pick they owe Orlando is protected. It's a top 4 protected pick. The Bulls currently are only a game and a half ahead of Orlando for the number 4 spot. So it wouldn't take much to disrupt this team enough that you fall down. It's not much of a fall to get your way into 4, and suddenly you protect that first round pick. Now I'd have to look to see. I'm sure they would still owe Orlando something in exchange, but it wouldn't be that first round pick. Suddenly you'd have a lottery pick that you'd have a chance to maybe turn this around relatively quickly. It might not need to do a full rebuild. You might just need to do a reload. But still, it's a weird place to be. I know it's early. I know it's still early on in the season. There's a lot of basketball left to be played, but still, this is a rough start for the Bulls, and we're starting to see evidence that this thing might be ready to... It's not... We're not there yet. We're not to the edge yet, but the edge is certainly in sight. The Bulls panic meter feels like it's about a 7 out of 10 right now. All right, we are going to take one more break, and then on the other side, we've got to take a trip down memory lane. We've got a superstar that got rewarded over the weekend. This is Chi-Town Weekly here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Attention, all sports fans! If you're someone who wakes up each morning with a list of sporting events to go along with your to-do list for the day, then you just might be a diehard. The world of sports is as vast as the ocean is deep, including the major leagues, the minor leagues, the college, and everything in between. This is me, your boy Larry B of IE Sports Radio, welcoming you to join me every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on The Defining Moment, a show that focuses on what really matters in the sports world, sports themselves, and nothing outside of them. Once again, tune in for The Defining Moment with me, your boy Larry B, every Monday evening at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern on IE Sports Radio, right here on Spreaker.com. We'll see you there.
Hey sports fans, do you like wine? Well, we've got the show for you. This is Let's Wine About Sports, a show where we talk about wine and sports simultaneously. From the classic Cabernet Sauvignon all the way down to the grapes that you've never even heard of before. Oh yeah, we cover it all. And we'll talk about a little bit of sports as well. Football, hockey, collegiate, women's sports, it doesn't matter. We're going to talk about it all, and we're going to whine about it all. So join me Monday at 8 p.m. on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
Your wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your five-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
Hey, what's up, sports fans? You're looking for a different type of sports talk show, something you haven't heard before? You gotta check out the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday on 2 Live Stews Radio, 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. Sports talk at its finest. Always have great guests, playing some good hip-hop. You don't want to miss it. Make sure to tune in to the BS3 Sports Show every other Saturday at 1 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. Eastern.
What's up, everybody? This is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And welcome back into Chi-Town Weekly, everybody. Adam Kernick here with you for one more segment before we turn things over to Taryn Rodriguez and Set Point, getting us caught up on everything in the world of volleyball from the last week. Indoor, outdoor, college, professional. He covers it all. He knows it all. He will get you caught up. Be sure to stick around and listen to that. Taryn does an outstanding job. So unfortunately, this has been a bit of a downer episode. I understand that. Believe you me, I'm not happy about it either. I wish I had more fun things to be talking about. But here's a good one to kind of wrap things up a little bit tonight from our local stuff anyway. The Blackhawks over the weekend, they had the official retirement ceremony for Marian Hossa. Marian Hossa got to see his number 81 lifted into the United Center rafters. No other Blackhawk will ever again wear that sweater number, 81. Hossa, 19 years in the NHL, made his NHL debut in 1998. At 19 years old, played 7 games for the Ottawa Senators, the team that drafted him 12th overall in the 1997 draft. Played 7 games with Ottawa, played through 2004 with Ottawa, 7 seasons in Ottawa, but few other teams down the road. He spent more time with the Blackhawks than anybody else. 8 of his 19 years in the NHL were spent in a Blackhawks sweater. 534 games played, 186 goals scored, 229 assists, 415 points in his 8 seasons with the Blackhawks. And a guy that averaged over 18 minutes of ice time per night with the Hawks. You've heard me talk, and he wasn't just an offensive guy. He was a defensive guy as well. He was frequently mentioned for the best as one of the best two-way forwards in all of the NHL. Frequently a finalist for the Selke Trophy. That's the best defensive forward. Jonathan Toews was also one of those guys that would frequently get mentioned for that. He picked up on things like that from playing with Hossa. If you're a frequent listener to the show, you've heard me talk before about how John Lester for the Cubs is probably the greatest free agent signing in the history of the city. Hossa's number 2 on that list. Hossa arrived in 2009, and he was one of the final pieces for that cup run in the 2009-2010 season. And without Hossa there to provide some veteran leadership, the Hawks, who knows, they might not have completed it. It's certainly hard to see them. It's certainly hard to see them replacing some of those numbers. In 57 games that season, 24 goals, 27 assists, 51 points overall. And he was averaging almost 19 minutes a night on the ice. It was also appropriate that his sweater got retired with the Pittsburgh Penguins in attendance. He spent part of a season with Pittsburgh. He was traded from Atlanta to Pittsburgh in 2008, in part to help the Penguins on their cup run. He unfortunately wasn't able to win the cup with the Penguins. They lost to the Red Wings that year. Ironically enough, then he went to Detroit the next season and lost to the Penguins in the cup final before finally coming to Chicago and winning the cup. In his 3rd straight Stanley Cup final appearance, he finally won the cup. And he was the first guy that Captain Jonathan Toews handed the cup to when they won it. He was so important to that team, part of those 3 championships in 5 seasons. he was such a huge part of those teams and this franchise throughout its history. You hope that he's going to be the first of several guys from those teams to see their numbers lifted up high into United Center. But congratulations to Marian Hossa on having his number 81 sweater retired by the Blackhawks over the weekend. It was excellent to see. I will definitely be talking more about that tomorrow night on the Neutral Zone with my friend and co-host Zach Puplis. So be sure to tune in tomorrow night, 8 o'clock Central Time. I will definitely be talking more about Marian Hossa and those Blackhawks teams. All right, before we get out of here, we have a little bit of fun before we go. We don't talk very much soccer at all on this show. It's not a sport I know a lot of. It's not one the Chicago Fire are bad. We'll just say it nicely. They're bad. There's not a lot of great MLS stuff to be talking about in Chicago, so I don't talk a lot about it. But the World Cup has started. And say what you will about it being in Qatar and the fact that it's being played in November and all those things. It's one of those events that even for a soccer noob such as myself, hey, it's an event to sit up and take notice. All of the U.S. matches and a lot of the other games are being broadcast along the USRN and IE Sports Radio family of networks, whether it's USRN, USRN2, IE Sports Radio, or Wellington Sports Radio over on our Mixlr.com channels. Be sure, check all those out because we can give you access to those games for free at any time. You're not able to watch it, you've got your phone on you, turn it on. I wanted to just play some highlights. The U.S. had its first match in pool play against Wales. Unfortunately, the match didn't end the way we wanted it to. It ended in a 1-1 draw. I don't know how you play 99 minutes and only get 2 goals. I digress. But Matthew Owens did a fantastic job on the call, and he was very nice to very quickly put together a highlight reel from the match from his call earlier today. And I thought that would be a nice way to end the show tonight. So here is Matthew Owens on USRN with some of the highlights from the U.S.-Wales match earlier today.
And this is the moment that we've been waiting for U.S. soccer. For 8 years, we're underway. The World Cup, the United States and Wales. Pulisic played it towards the middle of the area, and it's Weah with a shot, and he scores! Timothy Weah makes it 1-0 United States! It is Weah from Brooklyn who scores the opening goal of the World Cup for the United States, and the Stars and Stripes are ahead of Wales in the 36th minute. Deflect out for a throw, taken quickly, and it's come to Ramsey. He's cut it to the middle for Bale. He's gone down, penalty. Bale has been taken down in the penalty area, and Wales will have a penalty. So here's Bale, waiting for the referee's whistle. Which way will he go? There's the whistle. Bale the run up with a shot, and he scores! Gareth Bale, the equalizer for Wales in the 82nd minute to break American hearts. And that's the full-time whistle. It's a devastating 1-1 draw for the U.S.
So not necessarily the way we had wanted it to go, but considering that the last time the World Cup came around, the United States wasn't even part of it, it's nice that the men's national team gets to take part in the World Cup. Be sure to tune in to Mixlr.com during all of the U.S. World Cup matches between USRN, USRN2, IE Sports Radio, and Wellington Sports Radio. We will have you covered, plus a ton of the other games going on in World Cup play over in Qatar. That does it for our show tonight. Want to put some shout-outs, of course, to our Patreon supporters, Bay Area Raised, Emlos Great, Key to the Gate, and Anonymous. Thank you for your continued support of the station that allows us to do things like our Mixler.com channel and our World Cup calls, plus NFL action going on. There's USRN has Monday Night Football going on right now. Things like that allows us to continue to do those sorts of things. So thank you. And if you're able, please consider going over to patreon.com. Go to our website, iesportsradio.com. You'll find our Patreon link right there. You can click on it. It starts at just $5 a month. It's very appreciated if you're able to do that. Thank you to Larry B, not only for hanging out in the chat room with us tonight, but for all the hard work he does at the station. He was heading up a 3-and-out face-off right before this between Jess, one of the hosts of our new San Francisco 49ers show on Wednesday evenings, and also Angela, head of our part of our PR department, Cardinals fan, doing that over on Spreaker.com. All the hard work you do behind the scenes, Larry, it is noticed and appreciated. Thank you to Taryn Rodriguez and Mike Pat, also for hanging out with us in the chat room tonight. Be sure to stick around right after us. Taryn, again, is going to be getting us caught up on everything happening in the world of volleyball. So thank you to those guys for hanging out with us in the chat room. Finally, thank you, the listener, for continuing to come back and being with us here every week on the show. It is very much appreciated. I hope everybody has a great week, whether you're going to the AEW wrestling event out at Wintrust Arena on Wednesday night, or if you're just traveling to go see family for Thanksgiving, or you're hosting family for Thanksgiving, as the noises above me have indicated. I do believe my in-laws have arrived. I hope everybody has a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving. We will see you next Monday night. Until then, bear down.